Hello and welcome to That Shooting Show. My name's Steve Anderson. I am your humble host. We have a very special program for you today, but first I want to thank our partners. For starters, Walther is the proud premier sponsor of this podcast and AndersonShooting.com in general. And it's very simple. The Walther PDP belongs on your list of guns to look at for the production and carry optics divisions. That's all there is to it. If you get one and you don't like it for any reason, you got 30 days to get your money back. And if you don't like the PDP, you get a refund 100p. And there's not anybody else in the industry doing that. That's how much they believe in this fine firearm. And if you have smaller than average hands, and if you're a female, and if you're a female that has smaller than average hands, for a female with smaller than average hands, the F-Series is a great gun that is guaranteed to fit your smaller than average lady-sized hands. All right, also want to thank Targets USA, CR Speed, the AMG-Lad.com Commanderson Timer, OutdoorDynamics.net, Hunters HD Gold, and ShootingSportsInnovations.com for their continued support of me and this program and you. They're supporting you by supporting me. We're all very supported in our athletics, which makes them make your own jokes. All right, so we talk a lot about mental management, but I don't know if we have ever done an entire program on what it is, what it does, and how it can help you reach your potential. So that's what we're going to do today. For starters, mental management is the process of improving the probability of having a consistent mental performance under pressure on demand. Consistency is what most of you say that you want. Oh, I had a good stage, had a bad stage. I had a good day, had a bad day. Man, if I could just string a few of these together, I'd be on to something. That sounds like consistency. That's what we can give you with mental management. Now, I take it for granted that people know where it came from. And for those of you that don't know, there was a guy named Lanny Basham who was the short, fat kid who couldn't make the team. And he tried out for everything, and he got benched in everything. He was the worst of the worst in every sport. And finally, he discovered rifle shooting and discovered that he had some aptitude for it because the requirements were things he was great at. All you got to do is sit still. How strong do you have to be? You don't have to be strong. How tall do you have to be? You don't have to be tall. All you have to do is hold your body still. And Lanny's like, well, I've been doing that on the bench my entire career. Nobody's better at sitting still than me. And in 1972, he went to the Olympics. And he had a conversation with himself that sounded like this. Hey, Lanny, what do you got to do today? Well, that's easy. All I got to do today is beat a guy I've never beat before and win the Olympics. Do you know how to do those things? I have no idea how to do those things. And he choked. A choke is when you make the serious error that you think has cost you the competition. Okay? So for the next 4 years in the Olympics, when you screw up, you got 4 years to think about it. You don't just get to go to another match the next weekend. You got 4 years to figure this thing out. And he knew that this was a mental problem. He was furious about the silver. He came in second and got a silver medal. He was furious because he knew he had the skills to get the gold. Most people, myself included, would be ecstatic to get a silver medal at our first Olympics. But Lanny was furious because he knew he had the skill to get the gold. And at this time, 1972, what he was after was called mental toughness. Mental toughness. You either had it or you didn't. Nobody knew how to teach it. And he didn't trust the other rifle shooters to tell him how to get it. But because he knows it's mental, he figures it must be the same in every sport. So he goes and talks to every gold medalist who's willing to speak to him, dozens of gold medalists. And he began to see some similarities. And he learned mental toughness. And he renamed it mental management. Right? So in 1976, he went to the Olympics again. Had another conversation with himself. This time it was a little different. Hey, Lanny, what do you got to do today? That's easy. All I have to do is run my mental program for every shot. Do you know how to do that? I'm the best in the world. So for starters, In 1972, he gave himself a results-based goal that he had no idea how to achieve and knew it. He knew he didn't know how to do it. 1976, he gave himself a process-based goal, let's say, in which he believed he was the best in the world. And that's when he won his gold medal. So, shortly after that, he began to teach this stuff. And the first thing he did was he identified the three mental processes that control performance. They are the conscious mind, which is comprised of what you are thinking about actively, subconscious skill, which is where your training goes if you do it correctly, and self-image, which, long story short, is your opinion of yourself in your sport governed by your habits and your attitudes. That is the biggest problem for most shooters, is their opinion of themselves. I always tank the classifier. I always choke at major matches. I always forget at least one target. Well, self-image is the things that you always and never do. You live your life by this, right? I always do this. I always do that. I never do this, and I never do that. That's what self-image provides. The framework for your entire life and your shooting. I remember I went to a match in California one time with the great California Chad and the mighty Open Dan Jose. And the RO literally said, I always wet the bed. He didn't use that term. I always screw up on stage 3. And here we are walking to stage 3, and the RO is telling everybody how he always tanks stage 3. Well, what do you think happened when he got to stage 3? He knew it was coming. He predestined it. He manifested it by talking about it. It wasn't what he wanted, but it's what he expected. Self-image always provides the performance you expect. Not necessarily the result that you expect, but always the performance that you expect. That can be changed. Now, here's what people know about the mental game. Everybody who's been shooting for very long at all knows this. You shoot your best when you're not thinking and you don't care. Everybody says that, okay? I wasn't thinking very much, didn't really care what happened. But why don't they try, or why don't they learn to duplicate that environment when they are thinking and they do care? What I'm going to have you do is change what you think about and change what you care about. If you are thinking and caring about things that are beyond your control, you are wasting your time thinking and caring about those things. If you restrict your thinking and caring to the things that are within your control, you can absolutely control your performance. You can never control the result. Not 100%. But you can always control your performance, and you can always get the performance that you expect. Okay? What you have to understand, if we take not thinking and not caring and define that, that is a subconscious performance that's not worried about the results. Okay, let's define that. Let's change it. I shoot my best when I get a subconscious performance and I'm not worried about the results. Well, you can do that anytime you want to. You can get a subconscious performance when you're not worried about the results. That can mean you know you're going to win. If you're the local hot dog, you know you're going to win. You're not worried about the results. It can mean you've pre-accepted them. It is what it is, right? I'm going to nationals just to see how I do. It is what it is. You've pre-accepted the results. You're not worried about them anymore, right? I'll do well is a great one. You've pre-accepted the results. You're not worried about it anymore. And then ultimately, I don't care is going to be very difficult to achieve, and you shouldn't even try it at an important competition. You could for sure go to an outlaw steel match or a shooting sport that's not in your normal deal and truly not care. But it's so important that we understand what they all have in common is we're not worried about the results. We've got to get to that place. And those are 4 pretty easy ways to get there. And you need to understand your next match will be won by somebody who is shooting subconsciously. That person might as well be you. Now, there are people out there, we'll call them unconscious competent. Okay? Unconscious competent shooters can shoot pretty well under pressure most of the time. But if anything happens that throws them off of that, they don't know how to get back to it because they don't know what they're doing. And if you get mental game advice from a lot of top shooters, you might hear things like, just do it. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. That's the entire mental game in a nutshell. Just do it. But if you're struggling and you're frustrated, that's not enough information. Quit thinking about it. Well, quit thinking about what? That's easy advice to give. It's hard advice to follow. What we're going to do, and by the way, you'll never be able to stop thinking about something. Okay? Whatever you do right now, do not think about a pink elephant. Mine was wearing a tutu, by the way, coincidentally. But you can think about something else. Every thought you have creates a picture. And when you can control your thoughts, you can control the picture. The picture is very likely to be your immediate future. Okay? Subconscious performance is the goal. When you shoot subconsciously without active thought regarding those skills specifically, that's when you do your best. That's because your conscious mind doesn't draw the gun very often. The conscious mind taught the subconscious how to do it. Oh, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to hold it this way, you got to put this hand over here, you got to think about a lot of stuff to get that right. Repetition means you don't need to think about it anymore. And the only way to screw it up is to think about it. Don't think about the draw. Well, you just did. Instead, you think about something else. That's what allows subconscious skill in accordance with confidence. When the conscious mind is occupied, you will get a level of subconscious skill that is equal, well, let's call that available subconscious skill, because the naysayers are already saying, what are you going to have me do, sit there and visualize draws all day? Well, that helps. That helps. Okay? You get access to available subconscious skill in accordance with your confidence in those skills and whether your conscious mind is occupied with something else or not. Remember, you shoot your best when you're not thinking, you don't care. You've got an occupied conscious mind and you're not worried about the results. We can absolutely duplicate that environment. The other thing that's usually present is we knew the stage inside and out. Right? So we had a subconscious stage plan, subconscious performance, because we weren't worried about the results and we weren't overthinking it. Okay? Training will support those skills, but you have to take care of confidence while you're training. And we'll come back to that in a minute. So when you learn how to manage these three processes, conscious, subconscious, self-image, you create the triad state. That's very similar to the zone. Right? The difference between the triad state and the zone would be a 100% subconscious performance in which the conscious mind and the self-image are irrelevant for a short period of time. I don't know if they disappear. They're certainly not active. That's the zone. It's more likely to happen in a more reactive sport, basketball, volleyball, something like that. Okay? Ours is a proactive sport, which means we're in control of everything. Okay, a zone performance is less likely to happen there because you're not reacting to what the opponent's doing. You're in charge of everything, right? But the triad state is better than the zone because it is inducible on demand. The zone is a happy accident when it happens. The triad state is available 100% of the time when you learn how to reach it. Okay, we're going to give you a flow chart in the mental management class that governs every thought you need to have for your competition day. Every thought. From when you get up in the morning to what to do when you get home. We're going to cover all of that. And you're going to do something that probably half of you are not willing to do. And that is write a book about your best shooting and how you achieved it. Most of you are writing a book about your worst shooting. And you're surprised when it continues to happen. Everybody listening to this program right now can name 3 ways they can screw up a match. But what you can't name is, what am I doing when I'm getting it right? What is that environment and how do I duplicate it? We're going to teach you how to learn what is happening when you're getting it right so that you can duplicate it. We're going to show you how to do it. Whether you do it or not is totally up to you. Everybody that's been skeptical of keeping a journal that I've talked into doing it has said things to me like, I cannot believe that everything I write in my journal happens. So you want something to happen? Write it down. Only one of 2 things can happen. You'll either achieve it We'll stop writing it down. Somebody said the third option is you could die, but that's really the same thing as not writing it down anymore. So there's just two. You'll learn how to recover from errors so that the wheels don't fall off. Man, I was doing pretty good and the wheels fell off. Well, the wheels fall off when you make a mistake and you think and talk about the mistake. Every time you think and talk about the mistake, your mind pictures the thing that happened. Well, those are imprints to your self-image. That's the conscious mind telling the self-image that this is a normal thing. If it happens once, it can be abnormal. But if it happens 6 more times that day, it is becoming very normal. And every time you think about it and talk about it, your self-image thinks it's happening again. Right? We're going to learn how to recover from that. We're going to eliminate the differences between you and someone who can achieve your goal. I was given the mental management class one time, and a very simple truth hit me like a ton of bricks. If there's something you want, all you have to do is become the human being that can do it. And if you know what characteristics that human being has, and you know the differences between you and that human being, and you eliminate those differences, guess what? You can do it. If it's within your control, it will absolutely happen. If it's not within your control, it simply becomes far more likely. I even remember before I knew anything about this stuff, I would go through my entire day asking myself, what would a grandmaster do? Well, right now, he'd get up and go to work because he has to pay his bills. Okay, well, that's the first thing he'd do. When he gets home, what's he going to do? Crack a beer and watch reruns or go dry fire? He'd go dry fire. And I didn't know it, but I was eliminating the differences between me and a grandmaster. And I didn't even know I was doing it. I was just so obsessed, I couldn't think of anything else to do. But you'll learn to never forget a target again. The reason you're forgetting targets is because you don't have a subconscious stage plan or your subconscious stage plan is incorrect. It's only 2 reasons that there can be, right? You'll learn how to never have that happen to you again. Well, you'll also learn never to lose your stage plan when the timer goes off. It never fails. Every month or so, somebody recycles that old picture of the Men in Black memory eraser. And, this is what happens when to your stage plan when the timer goes off. Well, that is also revealing the lack of a subconscious stage plan. You kind of knew what to do. And the worst part is when you were looking at the stage, all of your negative thinking was impacting your opinion of the stage plan. So you kind of have a stage plan that you kind of hate and think kind of sucks. Well, it's no wonder it goes poorly. If you compare that to your best performances, you have a stage plan you absolutely know in which you have some much higher degree of confidence. Hey, I'm going to smoke this stage because I know exactly what to do, plays to my strengths, I got this. So we'll solve that problem. Piece of cake. Okay, you'll also learn to identify and correct mental issues before they do more damage. Most of the mental problems begin when you lose control of your thoughts, when you start thinking about things that are beyond your control, right? Uh-oh, there's Christian Seiler. I'm toast. You don't have to think like that. You could think about something else. But if you try to stop thinking about that, it won't work. But if you think about something else, it will work. And very quickly, you will shoot better in competition than you do in training. This is one of the hallmarks of a great shooter. He shoots better in competition than he does in training, or she. We will understand what pressure is, we'll define pressure, and we'll show you what it does. Pressure doesn't always make people crumble. If you believe you're good at your job, you've been doing your job a little while, I promise you, you're better under pressure. Why? Because you know what to do, you've done it a bunch, and you believe you'll be successful. In that environment, pressure will make you better, just like it does at work for most of you. But if you don't know what to do, you haven't done it a bunch, and you don't believe you're successful, pressure will crush you, absolutely crush you every single time. We'll learn to prevent overthinking or underthinking. Overthinking is defined as thinking about things beyond what you are doing or what you need to be doing. So entire competition day, entire training day, there's something you need to be doing. If you're thinking about something other than what you're doing or what you need to be doing, you're overthinking. It's as simple as that. We'll also learn to prevent overtrying and undertrying. Most of you are going back and forth between overtrying and undertrying. I got to rush, try, hurry because I'm afraid I'll be slow, or I got to slow down and get my hits because I'm afraid of making a mistake. Those are both the exact opposite of a subconscious performance. If the conscious mind is controlling speed or anything else, that is by definition not a subconscious performance. That means the conscious mind is woken up and is micromanaging what should be subconscious skill. We're going to show you how to prevent all that. And we're going to help you reach your true potential inside of your level of participation. If you want to be a national champion, if you want to be a world champion and you're willing to do the work, we'll show you how to get there. Absolutely show you how to get there. If you want to have more fun in the sport and practice here and there, we'll show you how to have consistency that will make people so jealous. Right? My buddy Shaw Botha in South Africa, we're in class. He goes, I really don't want to practice that much. It's not a huge priority for me, but I really want to shoot well in competitions when I go. No problem. He's using mental management to do exactly that. And the newer you are to the sport, the more this is helpful. Because self-image is the filing cabinet of your shooting career. Okay? You'll see trends in there. The things that always happen to you when you go to big matches are in there. I always win or come near the top. That'll be in there. I always choke. I always make a big mistake. That'll be in there. Well, if you're new, your filing cabinet is empty. And you can start filing good reports from the very first day you touch the gun, right? Ultimately, you're going to get access to subconscious skill on demand. That's what we want. We're going to get access to subconscious skill on demand. You will, if you do this stuff right, when you do this stuff right, you will achieve consistency beyond your wildest dreams. Consistency is very simple. It's the quality of your thoughts and your ability to duplicate them. When I have these thoughts in these orders, I do extremely well. Why would you ever do anything else? But most of you know far more about your failures than you do your successes. And your self-image, your always and nevers, sounds like this. I always make a big mistake. I never win my local match. Those are rules you live by. And those rules will be valid for as long as you continue to enforce them. They can be changed. We're going to show you how to do that. And we're going to show you how to avoid the most dangerous mistake in the sport. There's something that a lot of top shooters, I shouldn't say top, very, very high level shooters are doing to themselves, and they don't know how much it's hurting them. They have just enough success to stick with it, but they continue to complain about mistakes and problems and, it was so close. Well, that is happening because of negative imprints during training. They believe they're never fast enough. They believe they're never accurate enough. They believe they're never good enough. And that is the guy that goes to the match, the guy that's never good enough, never fast enough, or never accurate enough. Well, that doesn't sound like a very good shooter to me. Well, you're just telling me to be content with what I've got. I didn't say a word about being content with what you've got. Not a word. That's a very common misconception. I'm telling you that how you think and feel about the training that you're doing is more important than the training that you're doing, and ultimately will determine whether you get those skills on demand or not. It's just as simple as that. Okay? The percentage of the sport that is mental is equal to your USPSA classification if you have one. If you're an A class, and you can make the parallels in other sports. Okay? If you're an A class, it's at least 75% mental. If you're a master, it's at least 85% mental. If you're a grandmaster, it's at least 95% mental. Okay, so you A class shooters that are out there listening to this, if it's at least 75% mental, how much of your time and shooting budget are you spending on the thing you just said was 75% of the sport? That's the same mistake I made. The third time I called Lanny Basham trying to get free advice, he said, "Steve, how come you haven't taken a class?" And I said, "Well, Lanny, I've got your book. I figured that's all I needed." He goes, "Well, you keep calling me. There must be something missing. Is it because you can't ask the book a question?" And he was absolutely right. I kept calling him because when you read with winning in mind, it is very difficult to immediately apply it to USPSA. It would be easier in a one-dimensional sport that didn't have speed and accuracy both competing for your attention. Oh, and by the way, the conscious control of speed is always an error because it will prevent, by definition, a subconscious performance. So let's just get that out there. If you're controlling your speed consciously, you'll never get a subconscious performance. Right? Everybody has had stages and maybe even matches that felt so slow. And when you got done, you couldn't believe that you did it in 8 seconds or whatever the time was. That's a subconscious performance. Man, I don't remember the draw. I don't remember the reload. I don't remember anything. That's almost always reflective of a subconscious performance because we don't remember things that are subconscious. You don't remember breathing 3 breaths ago. But if you think about breathing, it becomes a conscious skill. But if you're just going about your day doing whatever it is you're doing, breathing is done for you. It's a subconscious thing. Okay? You can control it, but you don't have to. Okay? All right. So here's how it works. I always just made the mistake of thinking people understood this. I don't know that we've ever explained it like this before. So if you go to andersonshooting.com, click on upcoming classes, you'll find the available mental management classes that are out there. Right now we have 2 weeknights available and 1 weekend available. I do my best to make sure there's always an online mental management available. Typically, it's 3 2-hour classes. It's done online via Zoom currently. Probably will be for the foreseeable future. And it's most of you have done Zoom calls. It'll be you and a few other people. Usually 4 or 5 people will be in there with you, and we'll go through the whole thing. Right? What is mental management? What is the mental management system? How do I actually apply this to my shooting in real time, starting right now? And then the third class is mastering self-image change, where you identify and eliminate the differences between you and somebody who can achieve your goal. If you want to be a grandmaster, if you want to be a world champion, you need to identify and eliminate the differences between you and that person. It's as simple as that. So go to andersonshooting.com, upcoming classes. That's where you'll find all the online classes that are available. If you want to do the full day of mental management in conjunction with a technical class, all we need to do is have a classroom. We can do the whole thing in 6 hours. I love the full 6-hour format. Some people think it's tedious. I don't really think that at all. I think it's fascinating. But we do the whole 6-hour format in one day in conjunction with a technical class. Lots of breaks in there if you need breaks, not a big deal. And those are the ways you can do it. If you have a kid who's getting into shooting, I need to be talking to them right now because we need to prevent the mental errors that occur. And even if you're not a kid, if you're new to the sport, maybe if you're the opposite of kid and you're a little older, you don't have 10 years to screw around if you're getting into the sport a little older. Right? We need to make sure that your training is maximized from the very beginning of your shooting career. Because remember, the biggest mistake people make is negative thoughts during training is the number one top mistake that people make. I see it all the time. Whatever you think and feel about your training is programming the shooter that's going to the match. So if you do 100 draws and you find 100 problems, guess what? If you do 100 draws and find 100 successes, guess who's going to the match? The guy who's 100% successful or the guy who's less than 100% successful. It's not about training wheels. It's not about a participation trophy. It's about controlling the imprints to your self-image so you expect to perform well. Okay? So go to andersonshooting.com, click on upcoming classes. That's where you can find all the current offerings. Currently, there is 2 weeknight sessions and 1 weekend session. You can get signed up for those there. We're also booking technical classes for 2024 right now. If you have access to a range, you can potentially get the class for free by helping us do a couple of things. And just email me, steve@andersonshooting.com, to find out more about any of that. And if you'd like to do mental management at a time that's not offered, just shoot me an email. Let me know when you're available, and we will try to work that out for you. All right, hope you've enjoyed today's program. I'm telling you guys, this is the mental game for shooting, and well, virtually for anything else too. This is currently this is the lens of shooting. We have so many people doing so well by using the entire system. Mental Management had 2 of the top 5 PCC shooters at the IDPA World Championships. And if you've been listening to this program very long, you know that my 2 areas of greatest expertise is IDPA and PCC. And 2 of the top 5 at the IDPA Worlds, Steve Miles and Andy Willingham, mental management graduates, mental management shooters, right? And I don't want to list a bunch of other names because I don't want to leave anybody out, but obviously Jay Beal, obviously Gaz Evans in South Africa. I don't want to list any more names because I don't want to leave anybody important out. You know who you are. You know how well it's working, right? Including my buddy Rich Alloway, who's winning so much stuff I can't keep track of it. All right, folks, hope you enjoyed today's program. Once again, please go to andersonshooting.com and upcoming classes, and let's get you to your potential right away, which is possible if you get to work.